Look at those towering cliffs. Careful with those relentless foes. Keep your wits about you. What's your plan for this challenging spot?
Just watching the video quickly. I don't think they asked gonna respond to that. But hey everybody, we're back for a little quick video. Just wanna get this out. Start the new year off right. Here, getting 2026 done right. So it's by Trap University. It is on Too Rich to Get in Trouble. So let's see how this goes.
Using money and influence to avoid legal consequences. Not exactly a new concept, and sometimes this takes the form of diplomatic immunity, which is a pretty crazy concept, but it does exist. There are people walking around that do not have to face legal consequences.
Tell you what we can do. I'm gonna pay, you gonna pay. No, I'm not gonna pay. You don't know who you're talking to. Just the bottom line. I'm not gonna get no, I have diplomatic immunity. You can get on your own. You know why I find a lot of cops like you dead? Because you come under people in the wrong way. I can make everybody call right now, and I'll be the only man standing right here right now.
Plenty of diplomats have gotten away with serious crimes. But when the son of an Israeli diplomat who hit a cop on purpose with a motorcycle got community service, I started to suspect that even though this kid didn't have diplomatic immunity, his father's immunity also kinda applied to him. Russian diplomats owe more than $100,000 in New York City parking tickets, and that only made the news to cover up the fact that diplomats from multiple countries have racked up over $16 million in parking tickets just in New York City because they just couldn't be bothered to pay.
You're parked in a firefighter's spot. Should you be there?
I'm not sure whether you're allowed to ask me this question.
She parked the car illegally, then walked right by another diplomatic car. You guessed it, parked on the sidewalk.
But is $1 billion enough to get away with crime as far as money? Well, it doesn't seem like it. Billionaires actually go to prison all the time. It's usually only the people worth $1 to $10 billion. Once you get up to $50 billion and over, it seems like the law becomes more of a suggestion. And a good example is if you compare Sam Bankman-Fried's case and that of Changpeng Zhao, a man accused by the US government of pretty much the exact same crime. They both created crypto companies and committed a $1 billion fraud. Sam even accused this guy of stealing over $1 billion from him. But as far as punishment, Zhao was sentenced to 4 months, and he was even granted a presidential pardon. Meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried got 25 years. But maybe that's because Sam only had a measly $11 billion, which the feds froze anyway. But since Zhao is worth over $80 billion, the $1 million he spent to lobby for a pardon was nothing to him. Walmart heiress Alice Walton has been in several driving-related incidents that for a normal person would have probably resulted in criminal charges, but for her, she seemingly just got off scot-free. Once in 1998, which is her most famous arrest because she told the cop, quote, "I'm Alice Walton, bitch," after she hit a gas meter. And then in 2011, she was caught driving drunk again, but not charged. Just like she wasn't charged or even arrested for hitting a woman with her Porsche in the 80s. But again, Walmart. She is literally the richest woman alive. So even though a guy like Diddy is a billionaire, it doesn't seem like he had enough money. $1 billion might spare you from the most serious charges, but 20 and up, like I said, it gets scary. And let's get to the scary part really briefly. An heir to the DuPont family and another heir of the S.C. Johnson family were both accused and found guilty of sex crimes. One guy against his biological daughter and the other guy against his stepdaughter.
Hi, is this Mr. Johnson?
Yeah.
Colleen Henry from Channel 12, how are you?
I am not interested in talking, sorry.
Johnson spent the afternoon at home at his gated Racine estate, free on a $500,000 bail.
In 2014, the S.C. Johnson guy got a 4-month sentence with work release after 60 days, and reportedly he didn't even have to register as an offender. In 2009, the DuPont heir was told by the judge that he would not fare well in prison. And so, as a result, he didn't have to go. I looked all over to make sure this wasn't just a quote taken out of context. Surely, this wasn't a real decision made by a real judge, especially not a judge that continued to serve until 2025, but yeah, this was a real quote. The judge even started to receive threats as a result of this and had to be provided security by the state. And bizarrely, Joe Biden's eldest son, who is now deceased, was serving as the Attorney General at the time, and he defended the plea bargain, stating that the case wasn't strong and they probably would have lost the trial. Surely, if it was a weak case, this billionaire's lawyer would have told him to take it to trial rather than agree to be on the sex offender registry. So yeah, he got no prison time, and in case you were wondering, there may be a coincidence with the fact that his family also had the oldest money. The DuPont family was already rich before the United States was even a country. His ancestor defended the King of France from a mob in the streets of Paris Paris over 200 years ago, and yeah, scary old money. Influence can have the same effect as $80 billion. But family ties with the president, that's a good one too. Donald Trump pardoned his son-in-law's father, and Joe Biden pardoned his son and siblings. But counting an actual head of state isn't really fair, since the head of state in most countries have some type of immunity, like Donald Trump being found guilty of multiple felonies at once and having to face seemingly
What just happened there?
zero consequences. Like Donald Trump's state isn't really fair, since the head of state in most countries have some type of immunity, like Donald Trump being found guilty of multiple felonies at once and having to face seemingly zero consequences, and also like how some people think that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia should face some kind of justice for his alleged role in some, let's just call them heinous crimes. But yeah, right, he just pledged $1 trillion to the US government, so
son.
he ain't facing nothing but the person sitting across from him in the United States.
You're saying to me now that the 600 billion will be 1 trillion.
Definitely.
And yeah, Andrew lost his royal title for being the easiest guy to throw under the Epstein bus, because this guy grew up as a prince, so he's likely never even considered the possibility of being charged as a criminal, so he was probably the sloppiest guy on the flight logs. But this was still a punishment, I guess, and being punished to move into the 20,000-acre Sandringham estate. What a horrible punishment, to move to an estate bigger than the Vatican City. Now, officially, he'll just be in a house on the estate and not in the main castle, I guess. Some people in the UK can't even afford the light bill. But what's the craziest bail amount you've ever heard? It wasn't the highest one ever set, but in 2018, a woman was released on a $100 million bail. Claire is an heiress of the Seagram liquor family, and she was part of a sex trafficking cult that featured many actresses, wealthy old men, and even a Serbian man. Sometimes I feel like I run across shit that nobody else was supposed to know, but it even featured a Serbian noblewoman. Royalty, actually, is what she is. This woman, who is related to the British, Greek, and Danish royal families, was groomed to be a concubine for the cult's leader, Keith Raniere. Her great-grandmother is a cousin of King Charles's father. Now, Keith was sentenced to 120.
This guy, I don't know where he gets his information, where he does his research. This is it, like, what?
Years. But Claire, despite being a leader and financially backing the cult along with her sister, served 4 years and was released in 2024. Her sister, who also funded the cult, was never even charged. But despite paying for the sex trafficking cult, she and her sister were also considered to be victims of the group at the same time, so that might explain the leniency, along with her family's immense wealth. Now, moving on, I want to briefly talk about the children of people with sovereign immunity. So, sovereign immunity is the law that says you're the president, so you are immune to prosecution in your own courts. And since I'm going to bring up Benjamin Netanyahu's son, I'll use Benjamin as an example of other countries imposing criminal charges on the head of state. So, the Israeli prime minister became the first head of state backed by the West to ever have an international warrant. So technically, this means that every country in green is supposed to arrest him if he ever sets foot in it. And to be clear, I don't have a problem with the average Israeli citizen. If you love war and racism, I don't really view you any differently than some lunatic in rural Texas that hates hearing Spanish despite living in a state that used to be part of Mexico. In Israel, it would be silly for me to blame everyone for the actions of the government. For comparison, I was in like 2nd grade when we invaded Iraq. I didn't approve of that, nor did the United States government consult me or my parents before they went in. Israel's government is essentially probably similar to what would happen if the United States was a Middle Eastern country instead of being in its own sphere of the planet. That being said, the Prime Minister's son used a state-funded security guard and driver to take him and his friends to a strip club. Now, is this illegal? No, I don't think. Is it a waste of taxpayer money? For sure. But when he tried to guilt trip his rich friend into giving him 400 shekels, which is about $125 US, he mentioned that his father had gotten his friend's father a $20 billion gas deal. He also said he paid a prostitute and even offered his girlfriend as payment since he, quote, had to fix her up with everyone because he was paying off debts. Now that sounds like nepotism, prostitution, and sex trafficking. I'm not sure about the legality of offering your girlfriend to pay off debts. His friend and bodyguard also called him a dumbass, so that's pretty funny. But as a citizen, he was required to join the IDF. But he went AWOL to go have dinner and was sentenced to 21 days. But after saying he was sorry, the sentence was cut short and he was released early. So at the very least, I guess this would just be a misuse of government funds, but people get away with that all the time. While lower-level politicians all over the world get accused and punished for misusing public funds, the higher up the ladder you go, the less likely you are to face consequences, it seems.
Did you take the money? At one stage you had $40,000 cash sitting in front of you. Did you take it?
Absolutely, yes.
But that was a brief rundown on how people with enough money and influence get away with crime on a daily basis right in front of us. But thank you guys for watching as always. We're on the road to 200K subscribers. I appreciate you guys always liking and commenting, and thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, so that's a pretty good video.
Now, technically speaking,
Okay, I don't know why this one keeps popping up. Oh. Alert box. Okay. So I think that will stop that. Starting. Okay, fixed it. So, next video. How corrupt is Canada? I don't know. Let's find out, I guess.
Now, technically speaking, accidentally honoring a Nazi in government is not corrupt, it's just stupid.
Has there ever been a greater diplomatic embarrassment in the history of our country? I mean, literally.
Против России сражался Гитлер и его приспешники. То он идиот.
The president of Ukraine was here. He was visiting. The former SS soldier that was being honored by the Canadian Parliament actually fought against Zelensky's grandfather in World War II.
What the fuck?
Anyway, this is pretty embarrassing. I mean, the old guy himself looks as if he can't even believe he's being honored. And he volunteered for the SS. He didn't get recruited or drafted. He saw the SS, the organization, and said, you know what? I want to be a part of that. But of course, Zelensky didn't care. He was only in Canada to ask for some help since he's kind of got a lot more to worry about because of his neighbor. But again, this isn't corrupt. It's just kind of crazy. But personally making your buddy's property worth over $8 billion, that's corrupt. So imagine you own some land in southern Ontario. You own land in something called the Green Belt, but you can't really build on it because it's protected by law from becoming something like a real estate development. It's supposed to just stay green. But what horrible luck because you're a real estate developer. So to get your land out of the Green Belt, you and other landowners can just lobby or illegally bribe the new head of government in Ontario, Doug Ford, whose legendary brother definitely did not smoke crack, he just liked to have a good time.
Do you smoke crack cocaine?
Exactly. Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
Seriously, RIP Rob Ford. But some real estate developers lobbied Doug Ford to remove their land from the Green Belt, which put the potential value of their land at over $8 billion. All from lobbying that probably didn't even cost half as much. And this is after Ford promised that he would not do this exact thing during the election. But, I mean, at least he did say he was very, very sorry.
I made a promise to you that I wouldn't touch the Green Belt. I broke that promise. And for that, I'm very, very sorry.
But in 2017, Justin Trudeau became the first prime minister in Canadian history to break the law while he was in office. And this is when Justin decided that it would be okay to accept a private island vacation from a lobbyist, which, as I've stated in several videos, is a person that can legally bribe the government to do what they want. He accepted a private island vacation. I wonder what this was in exchange for. Well, this lobbyist also mysteriously received $50 million from the federal government. But this wasn't just any lobbyist. It was a good friend of Justin Trudeau's father, His Royal Highness Aga Khan IV, a very wealthy and influential man. Good thing Justin inherited some nepotism points from his father. And if you've never heard of Aga Khan, that is the title held by the hereditary leader of a sect of Shia Islam. And he's so influential that he was granted the style of His Highness directly from Queen Elizabeth. And once he passed and his son inherited the position, he was granted the same title by King Charles. It might just sound like I'm yapping about royal titles, but no one outside of the British royal family has been granted the same privilege. But it's not like Trudeau really needed any extra connections. I mean, since the 60s, alright, this is a real statistic. Since the 1960s, there has only been one decade where a Trudeau wasn't a member of federal government. That's 6 decades of one family holding some kind of power in Canada. He was the first baby to be born in the Prime Minister's office since the 19th century, which means that for the past few years, he's been running the country from the same building he was born in while his father was running the country. But speaking of nepotism, Canada has free healthcare, and that's great, but it's even better if the hospital thinks you're important. You see, free healthcare means longer lines. What the fuck? And nobody wants to wait for obvious reasons, so in Alberta, a province in Western Canada, the former CEO of Alberta Health Services pretty much said, yeah, VIP patients definitely used to skip the line before I took over, but I personally didn't approve of any of this when it was happening. Like, oh, so it was just happening while you disapproved of it.
Он идиот.
Alright, this is the largest healthcare system in Canada. Alright, they operate over 1,000 hospitals, and Canada only has 1,087 hospitals. So that means for the average Canadian seek.
But, I mean, if, I don't know, a head of state, royalty is injured, I think they're prioritized, they would get rushed in. Like, they might even close a whole floor of a hospital. So, I don't know. That's a tough one. So, yeah.
In medical care, it was just a fact of life that rich people skip the line. But I think we can all assume that.
Yeah, everywhere. You could skip the line at Disney. You just pay a little extra, and you'd skip the line. You get express pass. So I think it's just you have an express pass in life, and you just pay a little bit more.
This happens everywhere anyway. But Canada is within the Commonwealth realm, so obviously King Charles is also the King of Canada. So I want to compare corruption in Canada to other Commonwealth countries, but only countries with over 1 million people, because since the British got very greedy when it came to islands and small countries, there are too many of them with King Charles as the head of state. We'll start with Jamaica. Now, Jamaicans have very little faith in government, and it consistently
that was sick.
Ranks as Jamaica. Now, Jamaicans have very little faith with King Charles as the head of state. We'll start with Jamaica. Now, Jamaicans have very little faith in government, and it consistently ranks as having one of the lowest voter turnouts in the world, with less than 40% of registered voters actually bothering showing up because 70% of citizens think the country is corrupt anyway. And to put this into perspective, Afghanistan has a higher voter turnout. Fucking Sudan and Russia have higher voter turnouts during elections. At this point, Jamaicans are pretty much used to being taken advantage of, as wealth inequality is also pretty bad on the island. Like, certain communities in Jamaica are very wealthy, and the other part of it is, well, the highest murder rate in the world. But surprisingly, wealth inequality is actually worse in the US than it is in Jamaica, with Canada overall being a much more equal country. So yeah, Canada definitely wins this one. And as for New Zealand and Australia, of all the countries that displaced the native population with descendants of poor British people, Canada actually trumps even the United States in historically horrible treatment of the indigenous population.
Not all Canadians. And I think not just indigenous. They just see something a little different. they get to look at like this.
So that's definitely going to be a point against Canada. The former Australian Prime Minister's daughter being at Jeffrey Epstein's house in New York is definitely a point against Australia. And honestly, it isn't even fair for me to include New Zealand, because New Zealand is definitely the least corrupt country where people speak English, one of the least corrupt countries on the planet. And seriously, it ranks consistently as one of the best governed countries in the world. I don't even know how that happened. Maybe just being so far away from, well, everyone. Maybe they don't know how to be corrupt. Grenada, we can't. You guys had a communist monarchy at one point. Technically, shout out to History Matters for pointing this out. So Canada and all these countries have a technically, shout out to History Matters for pointing this out. So Canada and all these countries have a governor general that's appointed by the king or the queen. This person is meant to be the crown's physical representation in the country. So in the 80s, Grenada had a communist revolution, and when they took over, the queen was like, well, I'm still the head of state, right? You guys still gonna sing God Save the Queen? And they were like, yeah. Essentially, because having the Queen of England as part of your new communist government actually does give you a bit of legitimacy. I mean, it was the 80s, so you know, nobody wanted to associate with a communist country, but they would definitely associate with the Queen, so the new communist government just let the Governor General keep his job. So yeah, you guys had a communist government that was ruled by a queen. Only the British could have pulled something like this off, man. They made America. They just known for changing the rules. Now, moving on to Papua New Guinea, which I didn't even know still had the British crown as the head of state. Well, alright, so the list of countries with laws against witchcraft is not something I thought I'd ever have to look for, but they still burn witches here, and apparently there's a real problem with the people conducting these actual witch trials facing any legal consequences.
That indirectly matter people, because they're the ones that identify sorcerers.
But does this mean the average resident is hunting witches? Not necessarily, but it's important to remember that the majority of the country lives in rural communities. So I guess just imagine if most people in the US lived in rural Louisiana. So yeah, as far as the biggest Commonwealth countries, Canada would definitely be the least corrupt after New Zealand, which is a utopia apparently. But Canada just made witchcraft legal in 2018, but in the
What do you mean they got rid of a law? There was a law against it? Why would you get rid of a law doing something good? Or
21st century, I just think witchcraft laws are pretty crazy. In the US though, there are certain states where things like fortune telling are illegal.
Okay. Oh, wow. So New Zealand, parts of the States. Ooh. No, not. I can't tell where that is. It's right above India. About like Sri Lanka, not Sri Lanka, maybe here. Middle of Australia. It's illegal, but then it's repealed on the coasts. Repealed in Canada. It looks like Great Britain, and then Norway, I think. Okay, and then very illegal. Oh, wow. This is crazy. Pretending and accusing to someone is illegal. Accusing someone of being one is illegal in India. So what happens if someone is one? They just can be one, I guess. You know, you just stay there. I mean, I think that's how everything should be. You know, leave animals, leave the trees, leave everything alone. You know, they don't make laws for nothing.
Interestingly, Israel considers Canada a security threat because recently 6 members of Canadian government traveled to Israel but were denied entry for safety concerns. Definitely in the Americas, it might have the most transparent government, kind of like how the United States is pretty transparent about the fact that the politicians will just do pretty much whatever they want. But surprisingly, as far as the rest of the world, I can't really put Canada in the top 10 for corruption. I mean, the nepotism in government is pretty clear, kind of like in the United States, but it's kind of like the US's quiet little cousin. Like, you know, your quiet little cousin, he's bad, but for the most part, he's pretty quiet. Which is crazy, because it's probably more affordable to live in New York City than Toronto, Canada. Good job, Canada. But thank you guys for watching. And I live in New York City than Toronto.
That's insane. So is New York, or Toronto the new New York? I guess it won't ever be, but...
Toronto, Canada. Good job, Canada. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Another one from Trap University. That was really good. Alright, so... I guess I'll look through. I had some videos queued up, so...
Well, such a long time.
And see what I haven't watched already. Yeah, and there's some really good breakdowns.
They're huge.
Oh, it was that thing.
This trick for a total of 7.
I feel like they need a random button to see, like, I don't know, have a random video pop up. That's scared. I mean, not the shit on me, but it's a little jump. I was not expecting that. Alright. I mean, this is true. So, you know. So far, just one comment. And it was spam. So we're hitting 2026 very, very strong. Yeah, I think I went through all my queued videos. Oh wait, no, I sent them to myself. Yep. I think we'll go with this awful one. Oh my god. Yeah, that is terrifying. I probably shouldn't watch this one, but you know. Oh well. Be prepared for a terrifying. Oh, so I didn't fix it. Still shows player eliminated. Oh well. Thought it's in the labels, but I guess not. Yeah, I closed the round thing. Oh. Well, why you owe people afraid of butterflies an apology? Oh, can we see guys' video? So videos by Casual Geographic. Let's get traumatized again. That is a terrifying sound.
Plenty of animals have pretty privilege, and no other animal has ridden that train further than a gutterfly. I did not misspeak. This halo effect insect is an abomination with wings, and if that offends you, you could die in a field today, corpse still warm. Last thing you might see is a bloodthirsty butterfly swarm. Many butterflies drink blood, among other things. Butterflies will do this thing called mud puddling, and essentially, it's using that built-in straw called a proboscis to suck the juices out of organic matter to farm free nutrients. Trench flies usually get it out the mud, but they'll also suck on rotting plants, feces, and dead bodies. You don't even have to die. If you pull over to the side of the road to relieve yourself and come back hours later, you may find a flutter of fiends feeding on your urine. See, now you thought they just use flowers as fuel, and that is true. The problem is, just a diet of sugar water would leave butterflies without key minerals they need. One of those minerals is sodium, and they'll go to extreme lengths to secure it, even irritating the eyes of reptiles to drink the tears. Crocodile tears have use to someone. Of course, butterflies taste through receptors on their feet, so one landing on you doesn't make you a Disney princess. It makes you a sodium-seasoned rest stop for a flamboyant fly that's just using you until it gets what it wants and moves on to the next mark. Because butterflies are boys with wings, and that is not a joke, because their mating behavior is out of pocket for something with its PR, but one thing at a time, we'll get to that. But the only thing more questionable than what some butterflies eat is what some people will do to find them. The Purple Emperor is a beautiful, ethereal muse to any entomophile. It's also a death merchant that avoids flowers, instead preferring rotting animal flesh and fecal waste. That hasn't stopped folks from seeking out this corpse fly, and here are some of the things people have used to attract them. Rotting fish, fermented shrimp paste, stinking bishop cheese, dog poop, roadkill, very used diapers, and in one case, a trailer of pig poop. But according to longtime enthusiasts, one of the biggest turn-ons for a Purple Emperor is urine-soaked fox poop. I don't think that's a coincidence, because not only are butterflies fine to mine for liquid gold, science says they might prefer the pee of carnivores, specifically mountain lions, to that of humans or cows. So when you say they prefer cougar pee, we're talking about in more ways than just cloudy with a chance of storming Daniels. But butterflies are opportunists that'll take them from anywhere, and Russian experiments have shown that
Cloudy with a chance of Stormy Daniels. No, thank you. I'll stay in the car.
Vampire moths, yeah, them's a thing, are able to use hook-shaped tongues to drill through human skin and feed on the blood. But that was just an experiment. To you watching this, a vampire moth is no risk that we know of. That being said, butterflies are not what you think they are, and the more you learn about them, the more you understand why SpongeBob turned his town into an Avengers end credit after experiencing its mugshot once. The funniest part is, the close-up they crashed out over was actually a horsefly, probably because they knew an actual butterfly would have ruined the animal for an entire generation. Because like I said, no animal has had better PR than a mosquito in drag. In fact, even their name might be a cover-up. A popular theory is that their original name was actually Flutterby, and the global game of telephone ended predictably. It's much more likely that it came from the Dutch word butterscheite, or butter shit, as apparently a butterfly bowel movement looks like a brick of butter. It's not 100% confirmed, but believing otherwise goes against my narrative, so I'ma disregard it. Insane intro aside, what is it that makes a butterfly? Because I wasn't kidding, if you're like me, butterflies are not what you think. Like on a scientific level, Lepidoptera represents the order of flies are not what you think. Like on a scientific level, Lepidoptera represents the order of flying insects that are, well, basically moths and anything that looks like a moth. Butterflies are a relatively small superfamily that's less than 10% of the Lepidoptera party, with a small contribution of at most 20,000 species. Everything else is a moth. They go to war, moths clear. There are also skippers, which are technically butterflies, but were such an out-of-character butterfly that science thought it was its own thing. Long story short, it's a butterfly that heavily borrows from the moth's playbook, especially when it comes to flying. Which gets straight up confusing when you realize there's an animal called a moth butterfly that skippers have nothing to do with. But basically, American moth butterflies are that weird. Only ever see during the holidays type of family of butterfly that were so weird and mothy, it kept them from the butterfly function until recently. Boring high school sciencey stuff aside, it's a moth's world. Butterflies are just a small part of it. I say that because there will be mentions of moths in this video, and I just know I'd get my Lepidoptera pass checked if I didn't make that clear. Because there's a lot of evolutionary headassery going on with moths, and I'm not about to leave it out on a technicality. So yeah, butterflies are not what you think. Even in an artistic sense, that butterfly's dead. If I ask you all to draw a butterfly, chances are 95% of you would draw this, and you would be illustrating a corpse. For some reason, butterflies are often drawn the same way dead ones are pinned and displayed by those who collect them. We basically did a blobfish to the butterfly, and immortalized their death pose. A butterfly might hit this pose at some point in its natural life, but most times a butterfly looking like this isn't. But it was. My condolences to anyone watching this and realizing they have a dead winger tattooed on them. So while we did do butterflies dirty there, butterflies don't need help doing that themselves with the things they eat, and that really starts as caterpillars. As you know, butterflies have many forms, and the caterpillar's job is to eat as much as physically possible. Caterpillars have the type of greed they warn you about in the Bible. No other animal reaches such biblical levels of gluttony. A caterpillar can eat 200 times its birth weight in the first 2 weeks, which can become 1,000 times its weight in only 2 months. Now those numbers probably don't hit as hard as a North American silk moth. No animal alive eats more relative to body size than a marauding moth, which will eat 86,000 times its body weight in less than 2 months of life. To keep that same pace, your
Yeah, you get reincarnated into that. You're gluttonous in the previous life. What?
7-pound baby would have to scarf 273 metric tons of mass, or 601,861 pounds worth of Similac. Pot of greed. Caterpillars eating constantly does have a consequence, and is them being in a perpetual state of dropping bombs. The scientific name for caterpillar waste is frass, and these hedonists pile on the frass by the metric hecton. If you live in the area code of the gypsy moth, then you've likely woken up to the sound of heavy rain with no water, because it was actually the sound of caterpillars mass flooding folks with frass from above. To be fair, if you could get all your lifetime bathroom visits out the way in only a few weeks, in that time the toilet would never not be attached to your cheeks. But another consequence of caterpillars unloading enough bricks to rebuild the city of Gotham, or Newark, is predators like wasps will track them down by following the brown brick road. So many caterpillars can ballistically launch their own fecal matter like a cannonball. The skipper caterpillar can shot put its own product up to 40 times its own body length, which is the equivalent of a man blowing it out the other end over 200 feet. Mind you, the world record for shot put is 77. Caterpillars shoot the shit, but ain't no back talk, and the chances a habitual slinger shoots one into your mouth is low. Science won't let it be zero. But they don't always shoot it. Only because caterpillars will also use their poop to manipulate the very plants they eat. Plants don't just get munched on all day and just take it. They'll produce chemicals to repel plant predators like caterpillars. Not only that, but those chemicals are like a cry for help, where one plant being eaten can warn others with its aromatic alarm bell. The catch is, they can only react to one threat at once, and the armyworm caterpillar exploits this by dropping deuces that tricks the plant into thinking it's being attacked by a fungal infection. The plant can only deal with one problem at a time, and while it's crashing out trying to fight a fungus that isn't there, there, the armyworm has free reign to eat it along with any other plant taking a cue from it. That's diabolical. The plant's get back is devious. Some plants can release a chemical that turns caterpillars into cannibals. Apparently, methyl jasmonate is such an insult to a caterpillar's palate that when plants would produce it as a defense, the caterpillars decided they'd rather eat each other instead. Simply not eating is not an option, and the moment a plant becomes less palatable is the moment you see a bunch of sandworms start ripping into each other. Although in the plant's defense, caterpillars don't need much to turn on each other, and the moment caterpillars realize there isn't enough milkweed to go around, they'll start aggressively headbutting each other to steal food. So caterpillars don't always choose violence, unless it's food. Then the bulkworm's ready for war. But the reason the hungry caterpillar is more of a curse than a kid's book is because they'll need all that energy for metamorphosis. And if the endgame of that wasn't a butterfly, we'd probably look at the whole process differently. You know it starts when hell freezes over and the caterpillar does something wildly out of character. It stops eating. If you keep watching, you'll witness the caterpillar split its skin and then pull its flesh suit down and then writhe around like a foot trying to emancipate itself from a gym sock until the skin suit falls and reveals a gooey casing called the chrysalis. So a quick rundown. The chrysalis is the shell booger the switch up happens in. Pupa usually refers to the life stage this happens in, and the cocoon you may remember hearing about are the silk cases many moths will make as a chrysalis substitute. Some moths don't cocoon, but no butterfly does. Now, the process of metamorphosis is beautiful and has also been associated with rebirth. It might be associated with something else if nature removed the modesty chamber and let you see what actually happens. Inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar releases enzymes to dissolve its tissues, basically digesting itself into almost soup. If you cut the chrysalis, a mess of caterpillar slushy would spill out. The only things that don't turn into Shrek Fest are imaginal discs, and what they are basically whatever they need to be. They're like the blueprint to their adult life, with discs for every butterfly body part like wings, eyes, antennae, and they lay dormant in the constantly eating caterpillar like a sleeper cell. The only thing stopping it from activating is the juvenile hormone in the caterpillar, and the same way neutering neophytes kept castrato sounding young, the hormone Peter Pans the caterpillar and keeps them young so they can keep eating like nature's favorite feedie. Once the hormone drops, the caterpillar pupates, and those sleeper cell imaginal discs use the protein-fueled former caterpillar to fuel rapid cell division. The process isn't one-to-one for every caterpillar, but that's pretty much the spark notes. Monarch butterflies occupy a chrysalis anywhere from 10 to 14 days. Some, like desert orange tips, will wait years, some say even close to a decade, for the right conditions to pop out. Another fact is that adult butterflies can remember part of their lives as caterpillars, even with their time as butterfly broth in between. Science shows that caterpillars conditioned to avoid certain smells through electrical shocks go on to show the same discernment as flying adults. I feel like that's way cooler than people give credit for, but it's also possible they do remember their past lives of greed, which might be why many moths don't have mouths altogether. Okay, that's a joke. Well, not the no mouth thing. The Luna moth is only alive for as long as its caterpillar past ate for. But the reason is because the same way a caterpillar's job is only to eat, once they can fly, their main priority is getting laid. Flutterbys have one job, and it's to mate, and some moths take the sentiment literally. Because a closed mouth won't get fed, but no mouth might get my bad, I mean her abdomen. Touching abdomens is how butterflies mate, and the process is much less innocent than you want to believe. Yeah, it's about that time. Almost every messed up thing about butterflies comes down to them catching a date. Butterflies will use several factor authentication like sound, color, even flight patterns to choose a mate, but the real secret sauce are pheromones. Males use pheromones like a calling card, and many moths and butterflies have a hair pencil to help get the message out further. Also called the coromata, it's a scent organ that inflates and fans out pheromones to anyone who might be interested. And with over 180,000 species of moths and not moths, someone was bound to take it too far. And Creatinos Genghis shows you just how far love makes some guys go. If it's any solace, a horny male moth can't fly with its coromata out. Life finds a way. Also, yes, Australia. Males use the food they collected as caterpillars to help fuel pheromones, which is why it's often the males you'll see puddling the juices out of a compost pile, especially since the chemicals are more for just attracting mates. After mating, male butterflies will often spray their partners with an anti-aphrodisiac that makes the female completely unattractive to other males. That wouldn't even be that bad, but parasites like wasps clock the method, so now I got wasps tracking a recently deflowered female by her anti-aphrodisiac after spray and hitching a ride on her, waiting until the female lays eggs so the stowaway can parasitize them. The endgame is her larva getting eaten from the inside by a brood of xenomorphs. Luckily in studies, less than 10% of wasps were successful, but that's what an insecure man can do to you. But some males don't stop at man repellent. Some went ahead and invented chastity belts. Few males will excrete this weird waxy substance designed to plug up his partner's female parts, which physically seals her off from other males. It's a literal breeding block, but that leaves a problem. It's in the female's best interest to mate with as many males as possible, but it also behooves the male to brute force monogamy, which has led to this evolutionary arms race, with females flexing increasingly harder to plug junk and males producing even more blobs of scabby petroleum jelly. But that is far from the most felonious way males buff their chances. Some people have experienced the rare occurrence of 2 butterflies in one chrysalis. Really, it's the scene of a crime. Some, like the zebra longwing, won't even wait until the female is fresh out the pupa stage. As the female is getting ready to break out of the chrysalis, a gang of males can swarm her and start fighting for position. The winner then rips into her chrysalis to mate with her while she's still stuck in the stage. There's a term for this. Some call it pupa rope. Now, insects can't really consent, so maybe that's too far, so forced copulation is a nicer way to describe it. But the rising female has zero choice in the matter when she basically gets spawn camped, and that just feels illegal. Still just butterflies, right? But when you only have a couple weeks to live, you pull out all the stops to make sure your genes don't pass tense with you. And it's why male butterflies are more likely to suck the sweat off your back. Not only do those nutrients help form pheromones, during mating, males will pass off nutrients to the female as a sort of consummation gift that helps the eggs, and in some species, the males will transfer 25% of their body weight in the process. Which explains why male butterflies are crackheads when it comes to some mineral, and some males take it so far, science had to invent a whole nother word for what they do, because in North Sulawesi in Indonesia, milkweed butterflies were seen harassing, scratching, and eventually sucking the juices out of caterpillars. The same claws they use to scratch the sweet out of leaves, they'll use on a caterpillar until their internal essence spills out, and at that point, the butterfly treats its own kind like a juice box, which led to the term kleptopharmacology. Because they're not exactly preying on the pillars, more than just stealing their substance, and a lot of times the caterpillars actually survive. Although knowing that they keep their memories as adults, probably not without PTSD. I think I'd rather die. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. If you come away from this video thinking less of butterflies or even hating them, then I failed at my job. I never want to be the reason y'all hate an animal when there isn't an animal alive that I hate. There's no cutaway. I meant that. The butterfly didn't ask to be put on a pedestal. If learning more about them ruins them, that is a failure of your own expectations. And to steal a line from friend of the channel, Hank Green, butterflies aren't here to please us. Their beauty is an accident, and we are merely spectators. Especially when the monarch population is down 99%. That's the scariest thing about them. Also, I want to thank y'all so much for 4 million subscribers. I've said it before, but y'all have changed the trajectory of my life in ways you cannot even begin to imagine. I got a lot more stuff planned, promises to keep. I did not forget the checks my big mouth wrote this year. But for now, as a thank you, I'll be doing a video on whatever the top comment says. Within reason. Within reason. Anyway, been a minute since I said this, but drink water, hug your mother, save the butterflies fam, and moths too. And I'ma see y'all in the next one. Probably the last one of this year, to be honest.
That was a good video. All right. I was thinking of going on Twitch and just quickly checking it on a stream.
Oh yeah. Alright, we got a lot with that. Let me check and see what we got this time around. Got that one. Got that one.
Oh, you could probably hear that, I think.
You still a homie? Hey, Danny Fu, good looking out, bro. Yeah, Danny looking out for y'all niggas, man. We told y'all who the niggas was that get the gift of subs. J-Man trying to roll up, chat. J-Man, who else be up in here, squad?
What he said?
M-O-D. I forgot this nigga, man. I see him right there. City Hunter J, what's up, squad? Boom, I just modded you, nigga. First time in the chat, CFO Sinatra. Welcome here, bro. I'm telling you now, this is your first time in the chat. This is your first time in the chat. If you got sensitive feelings, leave. It goes down over here, nigga. If you got sensitive, leave. Right fucking now, squad. Right now, bro. I'm telling you, leave. You said who, me? Me, nigga, me, nigga. Nah, who should I get? Who should I get? We about to start the videos right now. Who should I get? Cody G59, good looking squad. Janae, I wish it was me. Right. I'm a Huey knew his cool people. Damn, both of the mods said, J-Dog, what's happening? I was just finna say, nigga, tell them how long you been a mod. This is my first and only mod. I learned how to do this shit a year ago and forgot. J-Dog. Let them know how long you been a mod, squad. Let them know how long you been a mod, squad. Janae, you ready? Janae, she is me. Boom, modded you. And then both the mods said do Huey, so I listen to them niggas on that. Huey knew, right? Huey knew? Yeah. Alright, bet. Alright, we gonna come back to this shit later, bro. I'm gonna come back to that shit later. How niggas with no sub get a mod before us? Who with no subs got a mod before y'all? Who you talking about?
Man, people are petty.
Who you talking about? Who? You fucking lying. J-Man. You told me to do Huey and he's not fucking sub, bro. J-Man.
Never mind, they're not petty.
J-Man. You said make sure they're real supporters. No, J-Man is a real supporter. I talked to him on Instagram. That's why I'm J-Man. J-Man gifted a sub to Huey. J-Man, why you playing? Why you gonna just now gift a sub to Huey, bro? J-Man, why you playing with me, squad? J-Man, it just said you gifted a sub to Huey, bro. Ain't no fucking the homie played me. This is my nigga. This the only Ghost Gang nigga on my mama, rest in peace. God can strike me right now. It's the only Ghost Gang nigga I've been talking to on Instagram for the last month. Jay. Look. J-Man, you calling me? What's up, bro? What?
Hey, bro, that's my fault. The only reason I gave him that sub is because he's a real nigga. Like that's the only reason I just now I gifted him the sub. I didn't even realize that he was unsubbed for real.
What the fuck?
I promise you I wasn't on no bullshit. He's just a real ass nigga. Like, even before I had mod, he was in that bitch.
Where he at now?
What you mean?
He in the chat now?
Yeah, he's still in chat.
My nigga, I thought you tried to get over on your boy, bro.
Hell nah.
Damn. All right, bro. All right.
I just trust that nigga. Like, I'm not on no bullshit. You already know my nigga. Like,
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Not this nigga, bro. Not this nigga, bro.
I just had to call you and let you know for sure. Like, it's not like that.
All right, I'm about to get back to the stream, nigga.
I got you, my nigga.
All right. No, he said he thought the gifted was random? Hell no, it wasn't random, bro. Hell no, it wasn't random, squad. When I seen him gift that shit, it was like, that's my nigga J-Man, bro. That's my little nigga, squad. Shiver me timbers. He backdoored me? I don't think he backdoored me, nigga. It's just, he said, y'all, yeah, chill on the homie.
I think I'm gonna end this stream here.
So let you get the mod.